All right. Hey, everybody, it's Mike. I'm here with my good friends, Sarah, Jack, and Sam, and we're going to entertain you tonight with some Keep Your Torch Lit. Glad you could join us.
Yes, Mike. So,
Yep,
it's
I
been a
see.
hot sec. How have you been, Mike? What have you been up to since graduating?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we're almost 2 years removed, where I am from here. Right now, I have an apartment in Boston. I'm living here with my girlfriend and my dog and my buddy
Aw.
from high school. Actually, it was an interesting arrangement.
Wow.
Wow, I love your alternative family.
Yeah.
It's 2019, but yeah, no, traveling Monday through Thursday for work. Been to some cool cities so far. I've done Denver, Miami. Now I'm in a little town in North Carolina called Goldsboro, so not as
Oh,
cool
wow.
as the first two. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, there's just the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Patriots game.
Yeah, I have to say, Chiefs definitely robbed that one from the Patriots. I'm sorry. The refs gave us that game, so.
Jack, are you a Chiefs fan?
Yeah, just because I live in Kansas City now, so I'm kind of bandwagon Chiefs, you know.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you at least admitting that the refs took that one away, but those things happen.
Yeah. It's just like when it's something, it's so clear that he didn't step out of bounds. Like we should at least call that a touchdown and review it.
Well, that was kind of situations. You just let it play out, and then
exactly.
That it's just like you can't do anything about it because of the way you called it. But
I don't know. It's also crazy to me that the Patriots have been on such a long winning streak. Like I feel like the Kansas City Chiefs winning here, even seeing how good Kansas City is, it's a pretty big sports upset. I don't know if I've seen a bigger sports upset since some
beer pong situations.
I don't want to make too many excuses for that, but the conditions.
Those are the refs. The refs took that one away.
Matthew Israel and Cooper.
I will say, if it was a full 9 cup, like standard, I think it would have gone differently. If nothing else, they were just making them. I mean, if it was a really quick game, they probably shot it like 10 times and hit all the cups. I was impressed.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things was seeing, Mike, like your reaction, or it seems like you talked about that to like literally every person in the game. Like, oh man, I can't believe I just lost to Nick, like biggest sports upset. This is the UMBC versus Virginia.
Yeah.
I know. That was a very timely comparison, but it really, I felt like I had to get ahead of it, and like I also couldn't stop thinking about it, so it was kind of like word vomit as well. Just like Anthony just lost to Nick in the first round.
Did you see Lucy and Tate when they were like in the video where they were just like, yeah, we just beat Pike Boys at beer pong, and they even play against you.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, well, yeah, I guess you won the tournament, and instead I was just like, all right, just rubbing it in, like.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so let's jump into the finale episode, specifically the parts pertaining to Mike. So I think, I don't know how you felt about this, Mike, but I feel like the final 5 week was really short. Like, they didn't show a lot of it.
Yeah, it was, the whole episode really, in that part of the book, about, like, that challenge, which I thought I had a good chance, but I could not figure out the brain teasers for the life of me.
I know! Oh my gosh. Those brain teasers, Lucy got them so fast.
I think it's just something that you gotta, like I'd never seen that before in my life. Like, I didn't even know how to begin to think about it. So, yeah, that was kind of the demise there. And then one thing I wish was in the episode that wasn't any contest at all from Mallory at that point. I wanted to know where her head was at because I knew she wrote my name down this whole time. And there still wasn't, like, any conversation. Like, there wasn't her talking with Nick. There wasn't her, like, I don't know what I'm going to do this week. But I would have,
Yeah. Yeah, where Mallory's head was at? Okay. Because, okay, so we met with her. And then I think I met separately with her. And that's where I was kind of telling her it should be me, her, and Lucy final 3. I actually thought that I would have to push harder for her to vote you out. But she seemed like pretty on board with it already. Like, she already decided that I guess it was you going.
Yeah, I'm really confused exactly what happened that week. Like, so remember, Sarah, was it your confessional where you were saying, like, oh, I'm going to have to convince Mallory to turn on Mike, and I'm going to have to, like, cry, all that stuff? That you were referring to trying to convince Mallory to vote off Mike, right?
Yeah, well, because going into that meeting, I was like, I don't think Mallory's going to flip on Mike easily. So I was like, maybe I'll have to. Well, actually, when I met with Mike, I wanted to see if I could get you to say something mean about Mallory, Mike. I wanted you to, like, say, like, any indication that you'd be willing to vote her out, but you didn't. And so that's when I was like, all right, well, Mike is just this great person who's not going to say anything mean about Mallory, so I probably shouldn't throw him under the bus to Mallory. So I just kind of, like, that's where I scratched my plan to do the fake crying. So I didn't actually do the fake crying. When I met with Mallory, she was basically like, yeah, we should get Mike out. So I didn't really have to do anything.
Wait, why was Mallory so, like, did you suggest at first, like, how did Mallory so quickly, like, what are your thoughts, Mike, on this whole situation?
So I feel like when everyone gets voted out, like, it's obviously a team effort, or, like, kind of attributed to one or a couple of people. With my vote out, I had a hard time based on what happened in the episode determining, like, whose move this was. Like, I know, as we all know, Mallory won the game, but I do think in building her resume, if she was, the one who led it, it sounds like, Sarah, you were probably most likely to get attributed with that move, getting me out. But it'd be interesting to, like, from a viewing perspective, to see if, what role she played in that, rather than, oh, well, I tricked Mallory into, voting for Mike this week. So that was the piece that I thought was missing. But, I mean, obviously Nick was going to vote against me. The piece that I had no idea, and I probably would have tried the game a little harder if I knew Lucy had the idol. Because I just figured, it's either going to be, like, me, Sarah, or Lucy. Not really sure how these cards are going to fall. But second Lucy had the idol, I was like, yeah, it's probably me this week.
Well, I remember right after the challenge, I got in the car with Nick and Lucy, and us 3 were immediately like, all right, it's Mike. And of course they were saying that to my face because I was there. But I was like, I immediately knew because I wanted Nick out that week. But then he won the stupid immunity challenge. And so then I was like, all right, I need Mike out. And, like, that's because I didn't think that I could go to the end with you because I thought that it would be harder to win against you. Whereas I could have just, like, I guess I could have stuck with you. But their idol really complicated that. But the thing is, we didn't know about the idol.
Yeah, I feel like you're honestly, like, I wonder if Nick had lost immunity and, like, Mike had won or something. If Nick had... Yeah,
Ooh.
I guess it would have been...
I would have been in danger.
Yeah. Well, I guess if you would have won, Sarah, then and Nick had lost, probably they would have still put the votes on Mike, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had an idol.
So if you would have known Lucy and Nick had the idol, would you have ever thought of targeting Sarah that week instead?
That's a good question. I guess you would kind of do in that situation. My full plan was really just to go to the final 3 with Sarah and Mallory.
Yeah.
Basically, regardless of how that played out, jury would have been like, I'm sitting here with the people that I played with, and I couldn't have done it without them. The 3 of us are here right now, and we played a great game. I'm proud of the game I played, and that was kind of just the way I wanted to approach it, and I was hoping the 2 of them would be with me, and I knew that if I had any chance of getting there, I wasn't gonna have a relationship with Nick on that. I didn't realize until I watched the tapes that Lucy was actually even playing. So she surprised me when I was watching that, because I don't know what happened, but she literally flips a switch, and then all of a sudden she's got an idol. And I'm like, all right, no idea where this came from, but good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious, like, what kind of things you were most surprised by as you watched through the entire season, and like, what things you just didn't know about from the game that you're like, whoa, that I did not know about that. You know,
There was so much that Kevin was doing that I really didn't know about.
Oh my gosh.
It was good TV, but I was like, man, this kid was playing a horrible game. Like,
yeah,
that I definitely was surprised watching was like how effective and understanding of his situation. I kind of always thought that like Nick was just like a chicken with his head cut off running around.
Yeah. That's what I thought too.
yeah.
Then it's like he's drawn this down on a chalkboard like Professor Nick, and I'm like, God damn, the kid's right. Like he knows what's happening.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would have rethought my vote in the finals because of, kind of what I said earlier. Like I wanted to be there with Sarah and Mallory, and I wanted one of us three to win. So I was Mallory regardless. But yeah, I was really impressed with like just how well he played the game when he was kind of just a one-man band figuring it out.
Yeah. He was like basically just like removed from the normie alliance that we had. And I feel like he knew all along. He was saying, yeah, Sam, Jack, and Sarah are trying to play the middle between both sides. And like Mike and Mallory like don't trust me anymore. And like he pretty much seemed to exactly know what was going on. But he just could never get people onto his side, you know?
Yeah, I think he was just like really annoying to us while we were playing. Because we were all just like, we could get rid of him at any time, and he's just being annoying. And so that just like really...
He was making our plans harder to do because he was the opposition. You know?
My biggest regret, Jack, we were starting to form a pretty good bond. Like, you probably were still closer to Sarah, but I think, like, had I found myself in that same situation where, like, I don't have an idol in that final five, like, one, it would have been just another target in the room, like having you there and me there and Sarah there. Who are you gonna get? And then the other piece of that was just, I think you and I would be like, all right, let's just do this and see what happens. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think I was fully on board with going to the Final Four with you, Mallory, and Sarah at that point. So so whether it's you getting me out at 5 and you're guaranteed 4 at that point, or if it's you going to that 4, which I feel like probably would be bad news for you, Mike, because I think you'd lose against either me or Sarah, no matter who gets to that 3. But I feel like, I do feel like getting me out, selfishly, but was the wrong move at 6.
The thing is, though, at 6, if we had targeted Nick,
if you split votes.
Split votes, but the thing is, I don't know. So Nick had his idol.
He didn't play it.
So we would have Mallory. No, but I'm saying he would have known because Mallory would have told him, I think. Or
Maybe.
Lucy.
I don't think we would have told Mallory. I don't think we could have.
Yeah.
Lucy was so close to her or him, like with the weird truce, which I never understood, like why she gave him her word so strongly on that. Like, did they shake hands early on? Like, what happened? Where was this trust?
Yeah, I think they just had a meeting early on, and they decided to promise not to vote each other out. And I don't know, he got really lucky with that one.
Well, I mean, it wasn't necessarily like they had this bond that they just had since the very beginning of the game, where they were going to. They said they weren't going to vote each other out, and I mean, they had been close throughout the pre-merge, too. Like, they had always been in communication. And I don't necessarily know if Nick ever did anything where Mallory was like, oh, this is the end of our relationship. I mean, Nick voted for Mike twice, but he never voted for Mallory. Like, he always held up his end of the bargain to Mallory.
Yeah.
So
but
I feel like
there was
Mallory
never a chance for really. Like, nobody ever targeted Mallory. Like, do you think if there was a situation where people were like, hey, Mallory's the vote this week, we got to put votes on Mallory, do you think he would have held up his end of the bargain? Because I feel like he would have voted for Mallory. Like,
Maggie tried to, remember? At the final set, at the final
9.
That's
true,
Maggie
that's
really
true.
targeted, and Nick said, no, I will not do that. And then they had to change it to Mike.
That's fair.
So
I take it back.
I do think that neither of them were ever going to vote for each other. And this thing, Mallory said once, she was like, okay, I'm going to hold up my end of the deal. I will never vote for Nick. But if there's a plan to vote off Nick,
She's not going to stop it.
I'm not going to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she said.
Right, yeah.
So I do think that if there's a plan to get off Nick at Final 6, I don't think she would vote for him, but I do think that she would have.
She would vote for Lucy and be part of that split vote. Yeah.
She probably would have been like, well, all right, like I've got Nick as far as I could. I held up my end of the deal, and this is where the road ends for Nick. Like, I'm not going to vote for him. I'm going to vote for Lucy. You know, she probably would have thought this is it. You know, so I don't know whether or not she would have told him to play as idol, but if you guys told her, hey,
she didn't know about that idol.
That's also true. So there's a chance the split would have worked and Nick would have went home. I'm curious. Let's say the scenario happens where either Nick or Lucy goes home that week. Jack goes out at Final 5. Mike, how do you think you would have done if you would have been in the Final 4 and done that cube challenge?
I remember you saying you would not be out there long.
Oh yeah, this actually was kind of funny. Like the second I found out that was the challenge,
yeah,
I 100% would have been out in the first minute because there was like a big party that I was planning on going to, and I was like, oh, it's a waiting challenge. Like I'm not gonna be around for this. It actually would have been funny to watch because it'd be like, oh, and Mike's gone.
Yeah. Like not even one full rotation and you're off.
Yeah, I probably would have came up with some like clever way that like, oh, how I like accidentally took my like hand off of it so it knows or something. I mean, I knew how much you, Sarah, and Nick wanted it. That was not going to be easily won.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would have taken back my Saturday and called it.
You would just really hope that Nick didn't win the challenge, probably.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that was my goal. Wait, so that wasn't shown because going into the tribal of Mike's tribal, I had a meeting with Lucy and Mallory, and we were like, all right, this is it. We're going to get Mike out, and then as long as Nick doesn't win this challenge, we're going to go all girls to the end. And so that's also kind of why I was okay with the deal because I didn't want Lucy to think I didn't trust her. And so I was like, all right, well, as long as Nick doesn't win, it's fine then. So I guess Lucy and Mallory did have me believing that we would go to the end as all girls at that point.
Mm-hmm. Lucy and Mallory had everybody thinking that they were going to go to the end with them. Yeah. I guess Lucy and Mike knew that they were not on the same page, but everybody in the
Mallory had everyone,
Yeah, Mallory did have, everyone in the final 5 thinking that she was going to the end with them. And Jack, did you think it was going to be Mallory?
So final 6 for sure. Yeah,
that is pretty crazy that Mallory had everyone in the final 6 thinking that they were going to go to the end with her, and she never slipped up on any of her lies. Like it's just everyone in the final 6 thought I'm going to go with Mallory. That's pretty.
Wait,
insane.
Mike, I have a question.
Yeah.
If everything had gone down the way it had gone down, all the way up until the final 4 tiebreaker, but I had won the tiebreaker and was in the final 3, who would you, going into the final tribal council, who do you think you would have voted for?
Is the question, if you were in the final 3, what would have done?
Yeah.
Oh, I would have voted for you.
Okay.
I had already planned that. I mean, I felt like we played so much of the game together, and I know, you played that first half with Jack and Sam, Ohana, but we still had those meetings once a week, and I felt like each week we would talk, and the other one, whoever was going to tribal that week, would basically tell the other person what was about to happen before it happened.
Yeah.
Get the challenge next week, you'd be like, oh, just like Sarah said,
yeah.
It's all right, Sarah is really in the middle over there, so gotta keep this relationship going. And then when we got to the merge, we did our best to get that 6 going, and really Nick just wasn't having that, as we already kind of talked about, and I kind of blew that up. And then Ohana just one week after another just keeps turning on each other. Then the craziness ensued from that point. But I did like when you said that you decide that you were gonna play with me, and I was like, all right. So I didn't completely misread that. I didn't.
Yeah.
No, yeah. No, Mike, everything was what you thought it was up until Final 5, where I just didn't want to go to the end with you.
Well, it seemed like you were
'Cause
planning
I
on
was
voting
like-
off Mike for a while, though. By that point.
Well, I either wanted him out at 4.
Oh, yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
only because we had made so many moves together, and I was like, he pissed less people off. So I was like, he's probably going to get more of the bitter votes, especially like Abby and Maggie, for example, would definitely vote him.
Yeah, maybe
And
Nick.
I don't know who else would be better. So I was basically like, I mean,
yeah.
Mike he wasn't a goat by any means, like Lucy, for example. And we both made like very similar moves throughout. Like we were partners in like all of our moves. So he also gets credit for that. But then like if they're mad at me, they vote Mike.
Yeah.
So that was the only reason why I didn't want to go to the end.
I would say, Mike, I was
you.
pretty surprised when I saw everything played out and realized that like the move to get me out was basically like all you. I mean, like obviously it was something that you and Sarah discussed, and Sarah was the one that like tossed out my name, but you were the one that like really changed the whole thing where it was gonna be Jack going home, and then you were just not cool with that, and that was like a big swing in the game. That was a huge swing in the game.
That whole situation was interesting because I remember I was gone for a lot of that week, and craziness was happening. We're like this big, Sammy orchestrating this big blindside against Jack, and I think it just took like a fresh set of eyes essentially on the situation, and taking a second to look at it. Had I not made that move, and I think I realized it at this point, like it was basically just a slow burn to my elimination because I was losing the numbers on my side. And, if you guys got Jack out there, you were probably about to run train through most of the remaining players that weren't involved on that. And I think that was kind of just what Sarah and I realized as we were talking that out was like, if we save Jack, the big thing is the fact that he'll just be 100% on our side and give us a guaranteed number. So then it's like, Jack, Sarah, and Mallory and I, and that's 4 at 6 or 7 or something like that. So
4 or 7.
Good spot there, but I was definitely proud of that. That was a big move for us there.
Yeah, and also we've been talking the whole game about making that big move. And like all of a sudden it was about to be like everyone was gonna vote Jack, and like we were like, but we need our big move.
Big moves don't always win you the game, though. That's the sad reality. I guess Mallory's big move was voting for Sarah at the Final Four, if you want to call that the big move. But
So the more I actually thought about it, the YouTube commentators were real pissed that Nick didn't win.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't think they could put anyone so Nick really didn't need to talk that much to convince the jury that he played the best game. And instead he completely went over the top and kind of acted like this whole game was his like mastermind, where there's weeks. He is like truly like will do anything, like is truly screwed. And it's at the same time that Ohana keeps imploding. So that like completely, like I think if he was just a little bit more honest with his game, like I would have been tempted to vote for him. And honestly, I probably would have been surprised if he didn't win. But like I could tell he pissed you off, Sam, when he was trying to take credit for planting the seed to get Jack out. And, like, you need to do that, Nick. Like you've had a lot of good moves. Like don't over like make your game better than it actually was.
I agree. Absolutely. Also, when he was when Jack was like, that question where he was like, "What did you do better than Sarah?" or whatever. I really wanted him to say, "I'm better at her at tiebreakers."
Yeah, that would be good.
And he didn't even mention tiebreakers, which is like such a big part of like how we made it each week, because that's how he won multiple immunity challenges and beat me at Final Four. But instead, he tried to take credit for like random moves that I don't really think he was in charge of.
I do think his answer to that was actually kind of good, though. Like I think he was able to say that like he managed his threat level better than Sarah, which I think was true.
But at the same time, I think But I think Sarah managed her threat level perfectly for actually being in control of things and wasn't really seen as a threat until like 4, maybe 5.
I don't know.
Like,
That's true.
that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's hard to manage your threat level all the way to Final Tribal Council. Like, if you can manage your threat level until Final Four and still like come within the tiebreak of getting there, like I feel like
That's true.
I don't know.
I think the one thing he was better at was having Mallory be on his side then.
Yeah.
Which he started with her, so.
But I think so. Maybe if he said something about like I was better at building like, relationships that neither of us turned on each other on, or like some like keeping 100% trust or something, like really tied in that thing with Mallory. I don't know. That could have been better.
I do agree with you, Sarah. I think that he had one answer that you couldn't argue. It was like, if he had just said tiebreakers, you'd just be like, good answer.
Yeah.
You can't argue that.
But definitely.
Talk about his debate or how you observed it. Like, did he manage this a little better? Maybe. Like, those are all things that the jury is kind of like, I don't buy that potentially. But if he just comes in and goes, well, tiebreaker to beat her twice, like, quick answer, drop the mic, move on to the next question.
I do think that like if he would have owned his game, then like you're saying, Mike, you might have considered voting for him if he had owned his game more at the Final Tribal Council.
Yeah, I think even when I wrote Mallory's name down, I was a little bit surprised when it was a tie. I kind of thought I was mainly doing it out of like loyalty to her and the alliance, and then when it tied, I was honestly a little surprised. Like, Nick played a more classic game of Survivor. He really played a good game, and I mean, if Mallory wasn't brand new to Survivor, I don't think she has a shot at winning that. Like, that was a lot of the appeal. Was like, look at what she was able to do despite all this. And of course, Sarah, I think you, more than you know, it helped her win by giving her an opportunity to do something right at the end.
Right.
So if you kind of just gave up and like, well, there's no chance I make it through this, like, then Mallory's game is truly just like
that's true.
Side of the vote every time.
Yeah.
There's a reason why everyone in the final 6 wanted her in the final 3, and for the same reason. But ironically, she was the champion that no one really could identify at that time.
Yeah, I do think she did kind of have a perfect storm of things going her way to win. Like, I feel like if just one other thing of like Nick not having a really bad Final Tribal Council, about her, not being able to play up her vote for Sarah as strategy and not just her keeping the trust of Nick. If like Lucy wasn't also tricked, like if it's just like a 3-1 vote against Sarah, then like there's nothing that she can point to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
a lot of things.
And the reason why I thought she hadn't actually fallen for it was because right when I said it was fake, and Lucy turned around and was like, "What? It's fake?" And then she looked at Mallory. Mallory immediately was like Lucy was like, "Did you know that?" And she was like, "Not like." She was like, "I never believed it for a second." She like said that. I don't know if you guys heard that, but she like said it kind of quietly, and I heard it. And this was like right after I said it was fake, so I was like, "Damn."
That was fast.
She was like, "Not for a second." Yeah.
There we go.
But
I also think what worked well for Mallory was the fact that she just such a lovely, nice person. Like, if he was like been in the slightest, you'd probably be like, all right, let's just get rid of her. But you'd be like, she's not really trying to blow up my game. And
right.
She's nice to have around, and I like her. Like, let's go to someone else this week.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
social game is very good.
And it's not like she just didn't do anything. Like, she always met with people. So she wasn't like cheaty.
Confessionals. Yeah.
She had an ability to kind of just gain people's trust quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always felt when we would like send her to meet with like Lucy, she would come back and be like, "Yeah, Lucy wants to do this," and like she said she would also do this with us, and I'm like, "What?" Like, I was always impressed.
It's true. Well, I had one meeting with her one-on-one essentially, and she like told me she wanted me to win, and I immediately was like, "I love her. I'm gonna take her to the end with me." And she said the same thing to Jack.
I thought the same thing. Yeah. I had the same exact experience.
Did she ever say that to you, Mike? She said she was like, "I want you to win."
Yeah.
She said that to you?
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant when she said
yeah.
that to you. No, I don't think she ever said she wants me to win. Maybe that was like ditch him. Don't need him anymore.
Oh, all right. Well, I wanted to wrap up your section by saying that I feel like you were severely underrated this whole game. Like, I think you played one of the best games of our season. And
a lot of people had Mike as the winner pick. Like my mom thought you were going to win for sure, Mike.
yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
my
And some of
roommates.
your friends thought Mike was going to win. And you kind of used me as a meat shield almost, I feel like.
Yeah.
Did you?
That's just the way things are working out. I mean, we just really never could. We never could get Nick. I mean, Nick was this in a lot of ways because of the fallout. And I didn't think there was gonna ever be a shot that Nick and I would be in the final three, and I was right because he got me before I could get him. But no, it was a pleasure playing with you all. I love the game of Survivor, and I've always wanted to do the strategy. If you couldn't tell, like I really wasn't trying to get anything over dramatic. Like I just wanted to strategize and figure it out.
Yeah.
I actually remember at one point being like surprised about how well you were like new Survivor and were playing, because I kind of just had you pegged as like, oh, this frat guy who's just playing this for fun or whatever. And at like one point when we were meeting, you like made some like reference to Boston Rob or something. I'm like, oh wait, this guy actually, he knows what he's doing. And I will cherish those Chipotle lunch meetings with you forever.
All right, I have a little thing to do before Mike takes off. So Jack, I'm gonna give you as much time as you want to tell your favorite Mike story from the season. Sarah, I'll give you one sentence. Mike, ride or die, man. You get one word.
Oh my gosh, that was so funny. That was one of my favorite Final Tribal Council speeches ever. It's just
honestly, I think that speaking of my favorite Mike moment, if that is a serious question, I think that actually is it. Just the beer in hand. It just like it puts a cherry on top. It was so great.
So good. And also, Mike, I just wanted to ask, how many seasons of Survivor have you seen? I don't think I ever asked you that. Like, how knowledgeable were you?
So it was more like I picked up watching it probably when I was around like 10, and like consistently watched it till I was like probably in high school at some point.
So that's a lot.
I watched it for a number of years. Yeah, I'd probably say 10 plus, not 20 plus, but yeah, I've always just enjoyed it, and my family and I used to throw around TV and watch it, but I honestly haven't watched it in a long time. I did enjoy watching our season though. Kind of got the juices from me.
Love it.
Sarah, what's your one sentence?
Oh, about Mike?
Yeah.
Great loyal ally to have in the game.
No, I'm talking about your favorite. It's your favorite Mike moment.
Oh, my favorite Mike moment. Mike taking the elevator during the final 6 challenge.
Yeah.
That's my favorite Mike moment.
I won that challenge.
Yeah, you did.
So it was the winning move.
Yeah, Mike, what's your one word?
Here.
Love it.
Honestly, Mike, I loved how we had I feel like we had different times where like me and you were matched up against each other. Like we had to do the steal the bacon against each other and wrestle in the snow. And then we both did the plates. And then it was like when you kind of made that move to get rid of me, it was like another kind of like showdown in a way where you got the last word. But I was thinking like, because we never had too much of a relationship in the game except for like, I guess more as like competitors to each other than like really allies for too long. But there's always a pleasure. I love seeing all of your videos as I've been watching through it and seeing your perspective on the game.
Yeah, guys, it was a real pleasure playing with you all. I'm glad we all got to be on the same side of some things.
Yeah, we all voted for Mallory.
And
it's true. The 4 of us.
Well, yeah. Us and Lucy is about to come on, right?
Oh,
all right. Well, thanks, Mike.
Guys. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoy North Carolina.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right,
guys.
Goodbye,
Take care.
our wonderful friend Mike has shut off his program, and I guess like, maybe he's a robot, so he doesn't know his like robot brain was confused about not does not compute.
That's probably also why he took the elevator. I don't know why, but I don't know why.
He was overheated. He didn't want to.
He was overheating. His systems were overheated, and he had to cool down.
Honestly, I'm surprised that he was not ever willing to go against you. I think it's like he was programmed with loyalty.
No, I knew that.
To you and Mallory.
He told me, he was like, I want you and Mallory at the end. I fully believed him. Matthew Israel later told me that he was never going to turn on me.
That's the thing. I wouldn't have been surprised at Final Four if he was like in the back of his head willing to cut you loose and go with Lucy and Mallory.
No,
because he would have won.
He didn't care what happened. He just like wanted to go to the people that he had this alliance with.
But
he's just that type of player.
But he would have won. I don't understand.
I don't think he like really. He just wanted to like battle it out with the people that he played the game with. Like he just truly wanted to do that.
So why didn't you vote out Nick at 6? Come on, you kept me in. We could have battled.
Well, because you were just too much of a threat. Like, that would And like Mallory had been with him longer. Like he just really him trio. But
I know.
So our dear friend Mike has now joined the 5th place club. Shall we eulogize the great Mike Baker, the great bike maker?
The great bike maker was quite intimidating to me at first. I don't know what it is.
Big, strong senior in bike.
Yeah, frat boy. Yeah.
Frat boy.
Yeah.
Frat star Mike.
But then you realize he's super nice and chill and great ally to have, great strategist from the beginning to the end.
He's like the definition of somebody you want to work with. Like he's going to be really loyal to you. I was
going to say the same thing.
Yeah, and he's also a really smart strategist. Yeah, because he's not going to want to make dumb moves. Like his move at 8 to kind of like take a step back and be like, hey, actually, Sarah, like I think it actually is going to be best for me and you to take out Sam instead of Jack. Like that's exactly what you're an ally to do, is like have a different perspective on the same set of things, but always be looking out for you too.
He's like very level-headed, not dramatic, and will keep you in check.
Yeah.
We'll keep you in check. Super loyal.
The most heated he'll get is if somebody beats him in beer pong, and then he'll get really unlevel-headed and pissed off.
And he was like, I definitely would have voted for you, even after I like completely turned on him at 5 and didn't give him any explanation.
Yeah. He kind of predicted his game from the very beginning. In the first episode, I think one of his first confessions was like, I don't really know if I'll be the winner, but I think I can. I'm gonna play humble. I'm gonna play hard. I think I have the skills to get far in this game. And he's very humble. He's always like just level-headed, humble, very observant. He wasn't the biggest or loudest voice out there, but I think he played a very strong game. I do think that the one thing he was lacking, kind of like we talked about with Jack last time, is having that killer instinct.
Yeah, definitely. Me and Mike are really similar in a lot of ways.
What do you mean?
I think so.
What do you mean about his instinct?
The killer instinct. I guess he had that for... He did... The killer instinct is in being willing to cut your allies loose, in order to win. He would not have been able to win if he went to the end against you. I think if he had turned on you, he could have actually won this game. Listening at Final 5...
I don't think that's instinct. I think that's just like... He was a little too loyal to some people.
Yeah, I think that's what killer instinct means, I guess.
Oh, I guess I don't know what you mean by that. Okay.
Yeah, the killer... I guess, the killer... What did I say? The killer instinct? It's you need to be able to just, shut off... I don't even know necessarily say shut off emotion, because it seemed like he didn't ever think of the game emotionally, but he was loyal to a fault. He was too loyal. I think at Final 5, if he would have turned on you and decided to go after you at Final 5,
that's just not like him. That's just not how he plays.
It's asking him to be a player that he's not. But I think he could have found a path to the end if he would have done that. Because then all of a sudden, Mallory's choosing between Mike and Nick at the Final 4, rather than it being kind of an easier choice between Nick and Sarah, who she necessarily didn't have the same alliance with Sarah as she had with Mike. Mm-hmm. I think she probably still would have not voted for Nick, but I don't know. It just would have been different. Mike, it sounded like he wouldn't have won that final challenge and it sounds like Mallory would not have voted for Nick. So it might have all played out the same with Mike in 4th place, but
I feel like Nick
would have
won that challenge.
He definitely would have won. It would have been Mike versus Mallory versus Lucy, and like,
yeah,
Mallory dropped, and then
I think
Mike would have dropped right away.
Okay, I think Lucy could have got voted off.
In general,
I feel like Mike and Mallory might have gone for Lucy,
and
then Lucy and Nick gone for Mike. But yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say if I were to play the game again, I would definitely play with him as my ally again. Don't know about you guys.
I don't know. Mike might have learned a thing or two from the game. Maybe he was willing to turn on you this time around.
I don't know.
You never know.
I do
think that was really the only flaw in this game. I mean, he was sociable, well liked. He voted correctly every time, except for the time he was voted off. He pretty much always knew what was happening, but he was never the first threat. So I think he did everything perfectly. He just underestimated you, Sarah, and the fact that you were willing to cut him loose, and he wasn't willing to make the move first. And I think that's what cost him the game.
Yeah. All right. So our next guest is almost the complete opposite of Mike.
We have somebody who is very not loyal to her allies in this finale.
She's one of a kind.
She can survive on a desert island.
I would describe her as somebody who could definitely survive on a desert island for at least a week.
At least.
Somebody who has who can shoot things.
She can shoot things. She can chuck people.
She's a driver of the car.
She's in the driver's seat.
Drive cars.
She's in the driver's seat.
She likes to be in the driver's seat. She does not like to be shotgun. She doesn't like to be in the back seat.
No, she likes to be in the driver's seat, even though she might crash the car one of these days.
And she is.
Hello.
Hello, Lucy. One, the only
What's up,
Lucy Scrappa White.
Lucy, what have you been up to since season 2?
Well, as I'm sure many fans would like to know, I dropped Scrappa. So I am no longer. I'm no longer in the sorority. I know, but I also I've been producing and helping with all the seasons since season 2.
Yes.
Which has been a lot of fun.
Fun fact: the next season, season 3, actually the name and title came from Lucy.
That's true.
Yes, the whole twist idea was mine, which I'm very excited for, and I think it'll be a really fun season to watch.
Yeah, Lucy, you want to tell the audience what the title is? It's something we can give that away because it was already announced at the end of the episode.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so it's Survivor Michigan, Mazed and Confused.
Ooh. Which is exactly what it sounds. It's gonna be confusing, lots of twists, but yeah, we were throwing out ideas and Lucy threw that one out.
Yeah.
And it stuck, so
yeah.
All right. Well, how do we want to kick off Lucy's time on the pod?
I guess, Lucy, I first want to ask you just how can you survive on a desert island? I think that's what everyone's been wondering for quite some time now.
Yes, I could. I don't know why no one. I mean, I can see why people don't think I could survive on an island. But I would like everyone to know that I can. I do have some experience with the outdoors.
You have a cottage.
I have a cottage, and we have only girls in my family, so my dad taught it to me. Like, I know how to start boats, I can fish, I know how to skin a fish.
You did?
I do like weird things.
You did say that this summer at my cottage.
Yeah, tell the story about that.
You were able to jumpstart our boat. Yeah, tell us about that.
Oh, wow.
I was. We were almost stranded, and I saved the day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How'd you save the day?
Lucy saved the day last summer because none of us could figure out how to get Jack's pontoon started. And we were all thinking, like, wow, this is going to be such a letdown of a day. It was like the beginning of the day. We were excited to go out in the pontoon in the lake in the sun. And we were like, if we can't get this pontoon started, that's like ruining our entire day's plan. And Lucy's like, don't worry, guys. I got it. I know how to start pontoons.
And we're all like, okay, Lucy, like, you can fly to Desert Island, but there's no pontoons on Desert Island. She goes, and within like 5 minutes, it's
got the jumper cables and started that baby up.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Lucy, I
was very impressed.
Sisters? You have four sisters?
I have 4 sisters. I have 1 older one and 3 younger ones.
Okay, so there's like 5 Lucys running around the household. I love that.
There is, and I noticed I sound exactly like my sister Maeve.
Oh,
Whenever I watched our episodes, it was like, oh my god, this sounds like Maeve.
Wow. So that's amazing.
No, insider info. Remember, Lucy, your mom, and some of your sisters came to the tribal council that Maggie was voted off, or the challenge afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, the memory one.
You could see them in the background when we're running up and down the stairs for a few seconds.
Did they watch the season? I think I saw one of your sisters comment on a couple of them.
Yeah.
She was like, one of these players is my relative.
Yeah.
And then I think someone mentioned you, and she was like, that's my sister.
Yeah, that would definitely be one of my younger sisters.
Yeah. So, Lucy, what were the reactions with them about, like, the season? Or have you gotten a chance to do that, or, like, talk to them over Thanksgiving or anything?
Yeah, a lot of my relatives are a lot more into it and rooting for me. And they all have their opinions about all the characters.
Oh, gosh.
And I told them beforehand that I look kind of foolish on occasion. But the last couple episodes, especially, my mom loved watching.
Yeah, you really come alive.
What I was up to.
Wait, what are your relatives?
I almost had a great character arc. I was so
You did.
close.
Oh, I know.
What do you mean you almost? You did have a great character arc.
I know, and then Sarah tricked me.
Oh, but sorry.
I think it's surprising that our relationship wasn't showcased more, especially because I think it would.
Met a lot.
Yeah, and I think it would definitely fill in some holes as like the reasons I did, especially towards the end. No, just I think that's like something strange that I don't think people realized when I was saying like how often we met.
Lucy and I met a lot one-on-one, and we like started talking about us girls going to the end pretty much since like before Sam got voted out. And especially right after Sam got voted out, I was like, all right, now I have Lucy. I can work on this, building this relationship with Lucy more because Sam's not there to interfere.
Well, it seemed like the episode after was when Lucy was really, really mad at you.
I was mad because we had been meeting together so often, you know?
Yeah.
And she ruined our plan, like, you know, and so we were both like we were both against each other. So I was really mad about like that. But I don't think people realize how often we met for me to be that mad at you, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right, that's true. And then they also didn't show, remember we planned a meeting where like you were going to meet with Mallory right before Mike's tribal, and then I was going to crash it? Do you remember that?
Yes.
So like I crashed her meeting with Lucy, with Mallory, and we had planned this because we were going to tell her it's us girls to the end, which honestly was a really great move by you, because you had me believing really that I just needed Nick not to win that final challenge, which is why I was willing to go with that deal that you proposed, because I didn't want you to think I didn't believe you. And so I was like, yeah, all right, we'll give Lucy this win as long as Nick doesn't win. Because us three in that meeting, we went back to Mallory's dorm to get some things. And like all that whole way, we were like, we just need Nick not to win. That was like our mindset, or at least that was my mindset going in.
That was my main thing when I was making that deal with you guys. Like, I mean, at that point, that late in the game, I realized I was pretty safe to be guaranteed a final 3 spot, because I realized I was pretty much a GOAT. And I knew that you two would refuse to let the other one win. So the only reason it worked out is because you two were able to like trust in me, and you guys both thought I was going for working with you two separately.
Yeah, that was really well done. That was really well done, I have to say.
Yeah.
Oh, can we talk about that challenge though? Like some people were like, did it really last
6.5 hours?
It lasted. It straight. It was. I think it was 6 hours and like 45 minutes. But yes, we were out there, and it was raining for like half of it. And oh my god, do you want to talk about the dancers?
Oh my god, when we were harassed.
Yeah, tell that story.
Okay, so in the middle of our cube, well, throughout it, there would be like tourists would come up to the cube and be like, "What are you doing?" And we're like, "Oh, we're pushing this for a game show." Like we would explain Survivor, and they'd be like, "Cool." can we push it too? And then they would just start running with the cube.
Yeah.
And we're like, no, like clearly we're like doing this for a reason. So
we're like, no, this is serious.
Yes. So
also, so many people asked us what we were doing. At least like 20 people were like, what are you guys doing?
I know, it's pretty good press for us. But anyway, this is about, I want to say, hour 5 or so.
Yeah.
We are way into this. We are very tired. We are very cranky. And this group of teenage high school boys. Oh my God. These high school boys were here are visiting the University of Michigan for some high school like showcasing thing. So they met with these group of guys. And so they were all in front of the cube and it was part of a black fraternity was the one showing them around. Mm-hmm. And so they were doing their like chant and stuff like, and we just look and here we are, like they're giving us a whole presentation and we're pushing the cube. And then these boys started coming up to us and we're like, what are you doing? And like, they would run with the cube. Like
so fast.
Like so fast to the point where like, we couldn't catch up. Like, you know, like we had to be like, we can't do this. And we actually, I don't know if this is necessary. Like, I guess it's fine because they pushed us off, but they pushed us off the cube and then we're like laughing about it. And then
this was actually so dramatic because we all were so like intense about this that when we all like fell off, I swear I was like, no, when my hand like left the cube and Nick like fell on the ground and they started laughing at him, which like got him really pissed. Yeah. Because they thought it was so funny that Nick like fell. He like rolled a couple times.
It was just a terrible situation. But then eventually a parent came up to me and was like, what are you guys doing? And I was like, on the verge of tears, like, please get your kids away from us.
Yeah.
I was like, can you please leave us alone? And then he was like, okay, I'm sorry. And then after that, it was fine. But, that just, like, added to how terrible the situation was.
Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to say is that we weren't allowed to, like, run to try to get other people off. Like, we had to walk. That was, like, the rule. Yeah.
It was an endurance. It wasn't a, like...
Yeah.
That was crazy. Wow, that was a terrible...
Do you remember Mallory dropping and then coming back and bringing us like warm cups of water?
Yes, because she had church. That's how wholesome.
Yeah,
that's how wholesome Mallory is. Is that she had church that she couldn't miss.
Yeah,
and then came back still and got us all gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
remember when we were watching, Sam?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you want to talk about that? Yeah.
So. Me and Jack were, we had just come on a tribal council where Jack had worn a big wig. We didn't even mention that.
Yeah.
Jack literally wore a wig.
Where'd you
to
get
tribal
that?
council.
I had that from Halloween because I was like a judge for Halloween like the previous year. Like had that in like a black robe. Yeah.
so Jack
came in handy.
I love it. So Jack and I were both like, we both like kind of like followed them and like saw what the challenge was. So we were like, oh, like I kind of want to see like who wins. So I felt like we thought that like we were doing something that was like really wrong. Like we thought that we weren't allowed to watch. So we were like really trying to be sneaky. We were like inside the union. And we were like at those booths. We could see the cube from the booths. Mm-hmm. And we were like doing homework there, but kind of like watching, seeing what was happening. And we were there for a couple of hours, just like
we were
cheering. But then like the producers like looked towards us, and Jack was like, "Oh, I think we should leave." Like, I think the producer saw it.
Yeah, I was just like so scared of like, what if they like take away my jury vote or something because I saw this and we weren't supposed to. Like, oh my gosh.
I know. We were really paranoid.
You guys made bets, right? On who would win.
Yeah.
Who'd you guys have winning?
Jack
don't remember.
Jack had me.
I did have Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think any of us predicted you, Lucy. Like you definitely blew all of our expectations out of the water for this challenge.
I do I think the Final Four challenge was my highlight of.
Yeah,
it really was.
I think I was actually able to like really be strategic and like get what I wanted out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was definitely I think my best play.
No, for sure, because I was like. Because you had proposed this plan, and we had thought about it for, like, quite some time, and I was like... And then I was thinking to myself, I was like, if I keep denying this, then she's going to think I don't trust her with this plan that we had to go to the end with the girls.
Exactly.
So I was like, I feel like I can't be denying this for too long, so... Yeah, it really was. Like, you did a good job.
And another thing I don't think the cameras really showed, but that I started saying that around hour 4.
Yeah.
And I would literally suggest the idea, and Sarah and Nick would refuse to talk. And I would say to them, okay, I'll start talking again in 45 minutes. And then I would wait 45 minutes for us to walk around and then be like, are you sick of it yet? Or like, do you want to listen to my plan?
Yeah. More than down.
It took hours.
I was going to say.
Because that's why like in the scene, like, you know, I like swear, I was like, you know, I was just like, just give me the fucking, like, you know, let me win.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that was because that was like hour 3 of me yelling at you guys to give me the let me win.
Oh my god.
Other
yeah,
corner.
Lucy had to like yell. She couldn't hear what we were saying.
Yeah, what did you guys talk about for 6.5 hours? Like,
I don't remember.
Did you guys get to like
nothing?
I remember a lot of it was in silence, but then also we talked about like our birthdays. I remember we talked about like how you guys are both Cancer signs and like.
Well, Maggie had her influence. Did you talk about your dog's birthday?
Wait, Lucy, what did we talk about?
Nick, somebody tried to.
I genuinely, I don't really remember. I remember we would talk about Nick's work, how he worked for Taco Bell and he was ready to walk forever. I think it was quiet we had a lot of energy the first hour or 2. I think we were actually talking and kind of like,
and then it got
trying
quiet,
to get through it.
And then it was just like yelling at each other. But Lucy, I remember when you were saying like you wanted to give the necklace to Nick, I was in a position where I could look back at you and Nick couldn't see me, and you were like shaking your head. You were like, "No."
Oh yeah, it was so funny. I do that. I was doing it to the cameras too. Like Cooper would be like, "Are you really gonna give him it?" And I was like, "No."
I love how Lucy was like, "Do you guys want to play? Was it Never Have I Ever?" And
then that was
Nick's
in the
like,
beginning.
And Nick's like, "I don't know what level to go to." And I feel like nowadays it'd be such a like. We don't know each other so well. That'd be such a weird question for Nick to say. Like, I don't know what level I can go to for Never Have I Ever.
It's also
because you guys didn't know each other.
It's also like for YouTube.
Well, I know, but like a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to play Never If I Ever.
Never
Have I Ever.
Yeah.
You suggested it.
You know, you guys know I mix up my words in order occasionally. But that's a secret. That's a secret I can't share on the podcast.
But
yeah. Oh, also, yeah, I guess it was my dog's birthday the next day. I had planned to go home, so I was like, I really don't want to be out here all tomorrow. And then also, look, I love Survivor, but like, it was a waste of time to me to be out there for like over a day when we could just strike a deal, you know? Like, I just wasn't about to be out there for like 3 days. So.
And you two, like, towards the end, I was threatening that I was just gonna drop.
Yeah,
you two had it because you two would have forced each other to go another.
That's why
6
I was
hours.
scared. I didn't want it to be me and Nick because I knew that was never gonna end. So I was like, just gotta take this deal. At least Nick didn't win, and yeah, we can all go home and eat tater tots.
My favorite.
Another funny story about that though is. Later in the day, so when I got the immunity necklace, I wore it to a party later, and I almost lost it.
Oh my gosh, Lucy!
Someone was like, "Can I wear it for a second?" And I was like, "Okay." Like, and I was telling everyone that I just won this 6-hour challenge, and I turned my head, and they were gone. And I was like, "No!" And I spent like 20 minutes trying to check on this person with the necklace.
Oh my gosh,
that was pretty.
That's funny.
You know that when Mallory won the season, they offered. No, this is like actually. So they actually had a prize for the winner of $50, and then Mallory they did like refused to take the money. They're like, Mallory, you won, so here's the winner prize, and then she refused to take it. Then they're like, oh, do you want anything else for winning? Mallory's like, well, I guess I'll take the immunity necklace. And then they did, and then they said, and then Katie just didn't give it to her, and Mallory just didn't get it.
What?
So sad.
I know. So Mallory didn't even want.
Yeah, Katie just wanted to keep it. I think it was like Katie was like, "No, I want it."
Yeah, so Mallory just didn't get a prize. But the thing that Mallory wanted was the immunity necklace.
We should buy her one.
Yeah.
No, honestly, we could just use the one we have now. We still have the red one.
Yeah, Lucy, I had a question.
Yes.
At Final 5, what was like the whole, like, how did you decide to vote for Mike? Did you ever think about playing the idol on Mike and voting me out, or like what was that whole thing?
So yeah, my main thing, I wanted to use it on Jack the week before.
Yeah.
Oh.
Was this, me and Jack had talked about this, that I really was like considering saving Jack and then getting Mike out. But Nick had the idol, and like that would have been too difficult, and I didn't think he would have gone for it. But I wanted to do that so badly.
Why?
So badly.
Like,
why?
we haven't even talked at all.
Really, why? Just for the sake of it?
Yeah, because I was like, because you guys had been trying to get Jack out. I just thought it was
funny.
Yeah, there was some thought behind it.
Yeah,
it totally, completely blown up everyone's plan.
It would have.
And then Jack
really
would have been like sitting on he would have had to like bow down to me and Nick.
Yeah,
and save him.
and also,
that was my
that's a big thing you can talk about at the final tribal
It's like
council.
reverse what Mike and I did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dang,
I didn't know
about
that.
I
didn't
never
know
did
about that at all.
Yeah, we've talked. Maybe we've talked about it a little bit, but I wish I wasn't just on like a leash by Sarah that week. You know.
Yeah, I had you on, one of those like the toddler backpacks.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, Nick and Lucy wanted to help you for Final 7 and Final 6, and you just wouldn't talk to them.
Yeah. I played so bad.
We could have had something good going. But I mean, if we made it to Final Tribal, I don't think, you would have clearly won. And Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
But Lucy, why did you decide, did you just really want Mike out at 5?
I had wanted Mike out for a while.
Yeah.
I realized like before Sam even had a plan or anything, I knew something was up with Mike and you guys. Not specifically you, Sarah. Like I didn't guess that one.
Yeah.
But I was like I was like, Mike has known everything for a very long time.
Right.
Like he's always in the knowledge, and I thought that getting rid of Mike would isolate Mallory. And I thought that it would have done something to you guys, but I didn't know to the full extent who he was working with.
Okay.
In terms of like the big wigs.
Right.
So I wanted him out for a while.
So all the meetings we had where we were like, oh, it's us girls to the end. Were you just like lying to me that entire time?
Yes.
Or did you like?
I mean, Sarah, you're so good. Like I saw right through your plan. You were basically just trying to, in my opinion, I immediately saw you just trying to get ahead.
Yeah.
It was so late in the game for you to suddenly be having this idea in your head,
Right,
the only reason you needed the girls to do that was because you just voted out all your friends. Mm-hmm. And I think that was like your last saving grace. So yes, I did that to like entertain you. And also like it was a really easy way to like be able to talk to you and stuff.
That's true. Yeah, because Mallory had her confessional. She was like, I don't get why Lucy's like talking to Sarah. Do you remember that? She was like, I don't get it. But then she talked to you and you were like, oh, no, that was never the plan to like go all girls.
Oh, yeah. I was telling everyone was telling me that I was in their final 3, which I believe because I was able to realize I was a goat. So it was like, okay, I'm safe. So then I would basically just tell people what they wanted to hear. I think I had the most control of the game when it was Final 4 going to Final 3.
Yeah, definitely.
Lucy, want to talk? How did it feel when you pulled the idol out of your boot at the Final 5? I remember that was like we were all in the jury, like, oh, she reaches into her boot because you're like pretending like you're like, oh, I think I'm gonna go home. And then you're like, wait. I remember you tried to put on a show.
Yeah, I tried. I gave a little spiel about how I thought if I was going home, I was so proud of myself. I came up with that like so long before Tribal. I had that speech prepared. It was really fun. I guess the only downside to it was I was almost certain I was safe. I kind of just played that just to play it.
Right.
But it was still very thrilling. I hope if I have another idol play, I would hope that it'd be more dramatic. But I had a great time.
Yeah. No, that was actually one of the other things that surprised me in the game. You having the idol.
Yeah, I also just wanted to play it because to show that like I did find it.
Right.
Which was a big thing to me too.
Yeah.
Also,
then...
I love the look on Nick's face when you told him, you're like, yeah, buddy, I'm not gonna give you the necklace. He's like, Lucy.
He looks so
He just kept saying, he was like, Lucy.
Sarah, do you remember? Then after the challenge, we all walked back to the same area.
Yeah, because I didn't want to leave you because I was like, I feel like I need to like talk to her now. And we all just like followed you.
We all just sat there in silence, and I was just like, "Oh God, I'm a terrible person. I just gotta sit down."
I remember immediately right after I dropped, I was like, I regretted it. Mm-hmm. I was like, now I feel unsafe.
Which you were, but
yeah,
I feel I would like to make this on record that I never meant to screw over Nick 3 times. That was like never my intention. Like I never was out there to hurt Nick, except for the first time. Like I knew I was lying to Nick to his face.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other times, the time when I voted against him and then didn't vote him for tribal, that was like I wasn't thinking about Nick. I was thinking about other things in the game.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because do you remember when I was telling you guys about this vote steal, Jack walked by to go to the room and he saw us sitting there. And then Lucy, you were like, Jack, why didn't you tell us about? And then I was like, and then I was like, we're not supposed to talk to jury members.
I would have been like, what are you talking about? I didn't do that.
Grandfathered in, or like, what was it? Legacy give? Oh God,
the vote
legacy advantage. Yeah.
They cut out
more episode. Like it's so clear it was a fake. You had a terrible instruction sheet.
You guys didn't even look at the instruction sheet.
I know that's what I'm saying. I would have totally called it out. Now,
well, the thing is, the instruction sheets did look like that our season, though.
Oh, they did.
They were just like scraps of paper typed out. I like matched.
They weren't big budget yet.
Yeah. The immunity idol was like a white paper.
And then it was in like a plastic bag. So I like tried to emulate that. But you guys didn't even look at it. Like, you guys didn't ask to look at it at all.
No, it was terrible. And, like, I would be able... And now, because on production, I'm mainly in charge of hiding and creating the idol clues and where the idols are going to be. And advantages and stuff. And so, like, now I feel like I would be able to spot anything very quickly. I was just young and naive, and clearly that showed through in that part. But
and then us 3 named our alliance after that. We called ourselves the Black, and you suggested it. You were like, we're like the Black Widow.
Oh yeah.
Which actually is a real alliance name.
Which one of you is Parvati? Which one of you is Sari? And which one of you is Amanda Kimmel?
I guess Mallory's Parvati because Mallory's the only winner.
Oh
yeah, that's true.
Sari would be Sarah, and Amanda Kimmel would be Lucy.
Probably. Yeah. All right, I agree with that.
Yeah, I remember when like Sarah brought out that like fake that advantage thing. I remember I looked at Jack and was like, wait, Jack, how did you not tell me about that? You're like, that's not. I didn't do that. Like,
I was just like, I knew that you were doing this. I just was trying to keep. I wish they showed more of our reactions. It's like
I know
they did not show really my reaction during that because I just remember just being like raising my eyebrows, like, oh shit, like what is she doing? Like, and I didn't want to give away that it was fake because I was really rooting for you, but I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, that was a terrible time. I just feel so dumb from that, but whatever.
But such good TVs.
I remember how you how immediately Lucy was like, Nick, I'm so sorry. And
then,
Nick
was like,
everyone was just
Nick was like, you did not.
Because he didn't even read the votes yet, but everyone knew Lucy just voted for Nick, didn't he? We all in that moment knew yeah.
Also, there's this footage of right after Lucy votes in Final Four, Mitch, who's filming, turns to the other camera and has a really shocked face, which I want to release. We can release on our social media.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very definitely to release that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Yeah, I don't think production had any idea what was going on.
Because it was so last minute. I said in my group chat, I was like, something's about to go down.
Well, especially in the finale, I was Matthew Israelite was the only person that knew the winner. With
yeah. Did you say Matthew Israelite?
What is it?
Matthew Israelite.
Is it Matthew Israel?
Yeah.
Wait, are you serious?
I have all of your guys' names in my phone, as in like Sam Survivor, Sarah. No, I have you as Sarah X Survivor. Like I don't know any of your guys'
I didn't even have
Wow,
your number in my phone, Lucy.
Lucy, all these years and I'm Sam Survivor. Wow.
No, you're Mamsaurus in my phone.
Oh,
Yeah.
Matthew Israelite.
I think that's what he has in my phone.
What?
I'm not okay.
Oh my gosh.
I'll change it.
I'm
I'll
dead.
change it. Yeah, I didn't realize.
Wait, Lucy, I have so many more questions for you though.
Okay, go ahead, shoot.
Final tribal. Going in, did Mallory win your vote throughout that tribal, or like where did your Mallory vote come from?
I think like I've thought about it a lot. I mean, initially it was mostly off instinct and I didn't have time. It's definitely not about game so much. But I had no idea I was even planning on voting. Like I hadn't even thought about who would I would pick.
Exactly.
And I think Final Tribal had a lot to go into it, specifically Mallory's speech that she gave.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Was really good. And also like the way the jury questions were going. I was very annoyed at the time, and I felt like jury was just kind of, you guys weren't being the best. And so when I went to go vote, I was kind of like, who do I want to win more? That's what it was along the lines of. It was like,
right.
Yeah. Mallory and Nick, in terms of like how I played with them, I felt like Nick was always trying to lie to me and was always trying to scheme me. And the thing I was talking about earlier with I don't think the cameras really showed this or the way the edits were, but me and Mallory would meet all the time. Mallory would text me before and after tests, asking me how it went. She bought me ice cream that one time because I just failed the test. Was the reason she did that. I sat down and she's like, "You look terrible." And I was like, "I feel terrible. I have all these projects." And she bought me ice cream. She was super kind. And overall, I was I was sick of everyone being extremely condescending to me. And I think Tribal really put me over that edge to the point I was like, you know what? Mallory always treated me really nicely. And I never felt like she was trying to fool me, because I don't think she was. And so I was like, I would rather have her win if I'm picking.
Yeah.
And so that was mainly my decision. She was totally undervalued. No one saw her as a threat, yet she was able to get all this information and have all these alliances.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that I wish I could have done. I wish I was able to use the way people perceived me to my advantage, where I don't think I took I don't think I took the full use of the situation.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
I thought it was cool that even though you weren't able to win, you were able to kind of finish everything out by having all the power, literally all the power, your one vote.
Yes, that's
you were in the driver's seat,
and you chose to let somebody win that had had been this kind of the same spot as you, but was in a position to be able to actually win.
Yeah, and that was my case at Final Tribal. I went in there with the intention of trying to show how much I grew during the game. Was my big thing. But I was towards the end, I realized I wasn't most likely going to win or be getting votes at Final Tribal. But I was just really glad. I want to say from when Kevin tried blindsiding me, that first of all pushed me to go farther. And then again, when it was between me and Bailey, I think that those 2 weeks back to back really pushed me to actually become a player.
Mm-hmm.
And I think looking at myself from the first episode to the last episode, there's this huge growth. And so I don't I'm proud of me even getting to the final and stuff, but I'm more proud of those final weeks than the entire season. I think I was fully in the driver's. Of course, people were leading me in the wrong direction with fake advantages. But I think you guys put too much control in me, thinking I would act the way you guys expected me to act. if that makes sense of my words. Like, I feel like you guys not willingly, but like kind of knew that it could have been tied to leading me to the final vote. And I think a lot of people didn't really expect me to like vote the way I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a lot of people's mistakes in the finale. Was the fact that like I did my own thing. Yes.
Yeah.
You really were unpredictable. That's like I'm just thinking about it. You surprised Mike by playing an idol and getting him voted off. Like, even though he was going to get voted off.
Yeah.
But even then, you played an idol and then Mike was like, shoot, I'm gonna get voted off now. You surprised Sarah with that same play. You surprised Nick when you lied to him and then got the necklace. And then you were able to vote for Mallory to win the game. And like, so I do think that everything you did, like every one of the finalists, you like did something that either like affected them a ton or like really surprised them.
Yes.
Because like at every turn you just did unexpected
I
things.
look back on Final Tribal Council like favorably, not like, oh, I received 0 votes and kind of got shit on. Like always like, especially like me voting Mallory was like my final like, I can do it. Like, you know, like you guys should have like listened to me or like thought about me. So I thought that was like a great revenge.
Oh, there's one more thing I wanted to ask about. When Cooper is like, all right, there's 4 votes Mallory, 4 votes Nick. So Lucy, and you like raise your arms up.
You thought you won.
Okay. Well, the way Cooper said it, Cooper's the worst at like finishing sentences. He was like,
Yes.
totally right. And so Lucy, and I was like, what do I get to do? And he's like, you can vote. And I was like, oh. I did think something. And no one noticed. I don't think anyone noticed at Tribal me doing that. Like live. It's only when you watch the recording.
I noticed you. No, I noticed.
I think you could hear some. I think you could heard some laughing from the jury. But it was a great moment though. It was like because you laughed like with everybody. You're like you laughed it off too. You're like, oh, I thought I won. Like silly.
Yeah. I mean, I can laugh at myself in certain situations. I will have to say, one of the things I'm most like not proud of, but like glad I did was telling Maggie off in the last finale.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I'm gonna be honest, like, you guys kind of like were extremely condescending on the fact that like I was in a sorority, and I think that stemmed for a lot of like, oh, Lucy's dumb, and like, let's face it, I'm a goofy person. I don't come off as the smartest person, and that's something that still occurs to me now. And I was just like extremely annoyed that had been my stereotype the entire time. And, like, I was, like, being attacked for being in a sorority, like, being in a group, which, like, I even tell me all groups are sad because, like, what do you call the group of friends? Which, like, I get the difference between a sorority and that. But, like, I just was really fed up with, like, how everyone was treating me, especially Final Tribal Council. You can see me getting more and more annoyed as more and more jury members kept being like, Lucy, you suck. Not exactly in those words, but, like, Lucy, you're not smart enough. Like, Lucy, you were dumb in this game. Like, I'm not, and like, people weren't even giving me questions. Like, you know, I was just being completely ignored, and like, my questions were kind of just like, oh, Lucy, I guess you can answer as well. So I'm like, so that's something I wish I could have like worked on or better. But I like feel like the finale kind of really showed that like I was, like, you know, once again, it was like kind of like a screw you guys situation where I was actually able to like step up and do something and show you guys I was a person.
Yeah.
Love it.
I know. I did really think that, like, that Maggie took everything too far, and that was pretty crappy. So I thought it was really cool that you stood up for yourself. Yeah, it did really show out, like, kind of your growth and confidence throughout the season, that you're able to, like, stand up there and, like, defend yourself really confidently, be like, no, like, you can't say that, you know?
Yeah.
So I do think it was cool that you kind of, like, even though you did have a hard time at Final Tribal, like, you didn't lose the faith in yourself, and you had, like, that confidence. I think it was cool to see, like, as you grew throughout the season, you also grew in confidence.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And, like, the more people would tell me how I was bad at the game and stuff like that, the more I was like, you guys clearly don't, like, know the full story. And I feel like I didn't, like, I feel like I'm not the best, especially in Survivor, in terms of showing, like, my thoughts and stuff like that, and like I wasn't great with the whole alliances and talking strategy. Basically told Sam that I didn't want to work with him and I wanted to go back to Ohana. Or not Ohana.
Brilliant. Yeah, back to the blue team.
I like things like that. Like I don't think, or like Nick in Final Tribal mentioned that like I said something stupid. I said like a stupid idea to him. But like a lot of my jokes would be like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if we did that? Like not seriously. Like not being serious about it. And I think a lot of times you guys maybe didn't understand that yet. That like a lot of the times I'm not being serious, and I think that kind of.
Because we didn't really know each other, you know.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like it's so crazy. Like Jack, me and you, I don't think like ever had more than a sentence, and then like like hang out at your cottage and stuff like that. It's crazy. And like Kevin tried voting me out, and he's one of my good friends. Like it's funny.
You know, I remember thinking too, like after all this happened, that like I was kind of worried that like maybe you had a bad experience, and that like after season 2 is over, they'll kind of be like, there's some people who were just kind of, I was just the last we saw of them. You know, they just kind of, they did Survivor, and that was it. And I remember that, like, Lucy, you were one of the people that, like, I wasn't sure whether, like, your experience was positive or not, and whether, like, that would be it. And I remember after the summer, it was, like, the next fall, you had the first day of, like, season 3, and you were, like, right there, ready to film. You're like, all right, guys, like, let's go, and, like, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, even
Amazing Confused. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you came up with the season name, and you're really into it.
I know. I signed up for Survivor. Like, I'm not a Survivor fan. The only reason I watched some of the TV show was because you guys have recommended seasons to me. Like, I signed up because I was like, what's something I can get involved in as like a second semester freshman? Like, I feel like I kind of got school kind of down. Like, now I can start doing other things.
Right.
And like just joining it. Like,
you want to branch out outside of Scrappa. You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love the competition. I wasn't very good at the game, but like Sarah, I loved seeing what you were up to. Like I like worshipped you. Like I would tell all my friends.
Oh my
like,
gosh, Lucy!
Oh my god, this girl Sarah, she's so good, but we're about to get her out. Like I genuinely loved it throughout the season, playing and also me being completely outside of my comfort zone made it super fun. In my opinion, I don't know, I just loved it. Then meeting you guys,
it was really fun.
Yeah, and I think for me, I was definitely really surprised about how much you actually, especially I think post-merge, like maybe even like post like the Final 8 challenge and stuff, like watching it back, I didn't know how much you actually were like going out there meeting with people and, you know, proposing all these things, trying to get things. Like even if it didn't work, you really went in and playing the game hard, and I like definitely like really respect that a lot.
Yeah, because after Sam's vote was when I was like, I felt like I was on the bottom, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm sick of being the scared girl that goes along with people's plans. And I think that's like when I stepped up and started doing
you have like multiple moments, I think, where like
I could have met with you, and we could have done something.
I know.
Played your idol for me. It would have been great.
Maybe if we play an all-star season together. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I love how you reference, like, you're like, yeah, I might not be able to win this game, but I also am saying, you know, you should cast me on All Stars one day. And you remember you gave us
because I knew like I needed who's one of the producers for Survivor and one of my really good friends.
Yeah,
we were
Catherine Reed, friend of the show.
Yes, from the show. We were talking about it over the summer and the possibility of an all-star casting. And she said, like, I can seem dumb. Like, and I know that about myself. Like, outward appearance, my dad always tells me I'm one of the smartest dumb people he knows. Like I never seem smart. Or, like, I don't really go off with that, especially with my personality. And Katie was like, I'm smart, I just didn't know how to play, so I wasn't good. Where I feel like if I had an all-star return, I have that base. Like, I think I learned so much that I would be able to start off running again like I did at the finale. Like, you know, be able to have that and stuff.
Yeah.
We will see. We would have to see.
The audience would love that, honestly.
Yeah, you honestly became like one of the surprise fan favorites this season.
Yeah.
I know. I've fallen in love with the Survivor community. Like all of us on campus. Like, I think it's so fun. You guys are all one of like it was the best thing I've ever randomly signed up for on Facebook. I love it.
Honestly, I am I can't even describe. And like I graduated right after too. But even then, I'm like so glad that I'm a part of the community, just because everyone is so funny and
everyone
like,
is so like weird in their own way, and it's
exactly.
I think season 1 and season 2 were definitely like the showrunners. We definitely
the original.
We're like Borneo in Australia.
We really are.
I know.
I don't know if you've seen those yet, Lucy, but like they're still just held up in like really high regard.
Yeah, because Richard Hatch is Tarowski and Tina is Smellery.
Yeah,
literally.
But, true. All right. So, wait. I guess one parting question, Lucy. What is like your favorite memory from doing Survivor? What's your favorite memory from the season?
Oh, that's a good question. I think my favorite memory, which is so like counterintuitive, because I also hate it, but I think it sums up Survivor a lot. Was it Sam? It was when you got voted off. Was in the morning, right?
No, it was at night.
That was Abby.
Abby was in the morning.
Okay, I remember that. Like, I had so much to do, and I had a huge presentation later that day.
Mm-hmm.
And the night before, we had to go. I was meeting with a group, and I had to furiously text like 10 people at the same time.
Yeah,
it was attempting to meet with a group, and we met until like 1 a.m, and then I had to wake up early and go take a bus down to Central to go vote out Abby and then get back to court. I remember like, oh my God, this is insane. And I think that just like really speaks to like the amount of like insane things you're willing to do and waste your time for Survivor.
It's true. Well,
Lucy, the season was so much better having you on it. And I'm so glad that you.
Thank you.
Honestly stuck around long up in the season to really start making a big impact. Yeah. What was that?
I feel like Lucy should give a shout out to her #1 fan on Discord and Twitter.
Yes.
True.
I feel like he would really appreciate that.
My boy Jack Stavnik, he really believed in me from the start. Awesome there. He was my first fan. I was so excited.
Oh.
Like, first week he was like, I like Lucy. I think she's gonna do something. And I was like, I am.
Oh wait, Lucy, talk about the OSU fan.
Oh yeah, so I was at a bar during the OSU game over Thanksgiving, and the OSU host came up to me and recognized me and said hi to me.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
OSU player.
Thanks so much for coming on, Lucy.
Oh yeah, thanks so much for having me. I've been waiting for the day I would be able to explain my side of things and just some fun information I don't think people had.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad you guys are doing the podcast, and it's awesome. You guys are great interviewers and storytellers and everything.
Oh,
thanks.
Lucy, thanks for coming on.
Thank you,
I'm sure
Lucy.
the audience.
I
think they're really excited to hear what you have to say. So, yeah.
All right.
Well, we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So we've had 2 really great guests, and we have yet another one who I'm sure a lot of you really want to hear from.
Yeah. Massive character throughout his entire season. You know, inches away from winning the whole thing. Like, I don't know how you can talk about our Michigan Leaders and Best without talking about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
And like some of the greatest confessionals of all time.
Absolutely. He absolutely is, as Mitch would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
absolutely.
I feel like the 3 of us and him have a bit of a rivalry throughout the season. Maybe a bit is understating it, but I do really love Nick. Yeah, I definitely want to hear what he has to say, and yeah, I'm excited to hear his side of things.
Hello.
Nick!
What's up? How are you guys?
Good, how are you? We were just talking about how great your confessionals were.
Thank you. I'm doing all right. Yeah, I just finished my exam, and so I'm kind of exhausted.
Oh,
yeah,
I feel that.
How'd that go?
Really bad.
What class was it?
It was in each class. It was for like making websites and stuff. But
okay.
What each class? 45?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack's taking them all.
Yeah, 45. That was rough. I took 45 and 42 the same semester, and that was really rough.
Wow.
Yeah. I could not imagine. So I was psych originally, and now I'm double majoring in psych and computer science.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's funny because in all my chirons this season it says computer science and political science because I was originally going to double major and then I ended up just majoring in computer science. So, we went the opposite
route. But yeah, Nick, how have you been since season 2 happened?
Well, I'm a senior now, so I just essentially got done with all of the whole job searching things, and I am getting ready to graduate in the next semester and go to Chicago. So
yes, Nick. Yes, I think I'm gonna end up there, so we can hang out. I'm excited.
Maggie's going there too, and
I know.
Gosh, and I think I might end up there. Wow, we just have season 2. We should just all live in an apartment together.
That'd be lit.
Maggie's gonna be there. It's gonna be a party in Chicago.
Do you know what you're doing in Chicago?
Yeah, I'm just working for a small consulting firm, like right downtown.
Oh, that's awesome!
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Okay.
So
anyways,
awesome.
How about let's start on Mike's week.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Because I feel like the episode didn't give a lot of context on like the Mike vote out. So what was like your thought process behind that and like deciding to take out Mike instead of like me, for example? Yeah, what was that whole thing?
So going into that week, I had the idol, and then during the challenge, I wanted to make sure me or Lucy won immunity. Mm-hmm. So there were multiple times, they didn't really show it that much throughout the challenge, that I was really trying to help like Lucy win, or there was even a point where I went into that week thinking I wanted Mike out because Mike and Mallory were like a threat to me just as a duo. So I remember even during like the second stage, I went to help you while Lucy went to go help Mike because I think Lucy was thinking you were a bigger threat. So I was like, no, we need Sarah, or we need to get out Mike before Sarah. So I like tried helping you, I believe. Ends up me winning. And right after, we went home with Lucy, me, you, and Lucy went home.
Yeah.
In that conversation, you were like, all right, we're getting Mike out.
I was like, Mike.
I don't know if we recorded anything in that car ride, but so you were like, I want Mike out. And then as soon as you left the car, Lucy was like, oh, so we're getting Sarah out, right? And I was like, I don't know. Let's talk it through. I think Mike's the bigger threat. I don't know. I feel like that vote looked a lot easier than it was in general because there was a point throughout the week where I was like debating whether or not I could beat you in the final 4 immunity because I knew it was like because we all kind of guessed that it was going to be one of those how long can you be there for. So I know there was a point where I was really debating it, but then I had a conversation with Mallory and I asked Mallory like point blank, I was like, what happens if it's me, you, Mike, and Lucy in the finals or at final 4 and Lucy wins immunity? Are you going to keep your promise to me, or are you going to like vote out me versus Mike? And she essentially just like had a like internal struggle where she was like, I don't even want to think about that kind of situation. And like, I don't know. I think for me, that was the most important thing that happened that week because it was, because at that point I was very heavily considering voting you out because I knew if you won at final 4, I would lose the game 100%. Whereas anyone else I could have a chance against, like I figured I could at least argue against Mike, but I knew for sure I could not argue against you. So I was heavily considering it, but as soon as Mallory said that, I was like, I can't really risk my game ending at final 4 because you're so close with Mike. Like I needed to make sure that she would vote with me no matter what, at least like in any situation.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's good to know because I feel like a lot of it wasn't shown.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, in the general scheme of things, it did end up being like a pretty easy week because most people kind of knew where their heads were at. But it was just like for me a very determining like factor of being like just essentially choosing between you versus Mike because I think with me having the idol at that point, I probably could have chosen anyone because I just had to convince Lucy to vote with me.
Right.
And then you could play the idol on whoever you wanted to. Yeah, it's funny. I actually remember that being one of the things I was like really curious about at the final 5 was what was going to happen with the idol, like whether it was going to be used like to cause tons of drama. Or I remember that's one of the things you talked about, Nick, was kind of like wishing that you had played the idol instead of letting Lucy play it for herself, because I think it's pretty clear that you were the one that found it. But Lucy, there's this weird like possessive like thing between you and Lucy of like who actually owns this idol.
Yeah, that idol is such a mess because like I technically found it. And Lucy wanted to like claim that she found it, and she was like so happy about it. It was something she really enjoyed. So I kind of just like was like, okay, Lucy, like let it be. But every time I like did something, I made sure that I was like, okay, you can try this on. You can't keep it. Like, here's this. But yeah, in Final 5, I honestly wish I would have taken more control of that, because I think it would have shown a lot if I was able to take off my necklace, give it to Lucy, and then play my idol for myself. Because I think it would have shown, like, Mallory wouldn't have voted for me, and so she would have either had to pick, like, Mike or Sarah, and she probably would have voted Sarah. And then Sarah would have had to decide whether she was voting me or Mike, and I feel like it would have just been a bigger scenario just to see, like, Mallory not actually vote me out. Which I assume she wouldn't have voted me out. I mean, I could be wrong, but
I don't think she would.
But yeah, so that definitely crossed my mind a lot. But at some point, I just kind of said, "All right, well, I don't want Mallory to get scared at Final Four that me and Lucy are a duo, so I'll just give Lucy the idol and make it look like she found it." But as soon as Lucy played it, she was like, "Oh yeah, Nick found it and gave it to me." I was like, "Oh, well, that didn't matter."
Yeah. That's funny. Speaking of Lucy, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Final Four challenge and like the whole deal she had us make. What were like your thoughts when that was happening, and then like after when she like didn't give you the Moody necklace? What were you thinking?
Have you talked about the people who like came in at that challenge or no?
Yeah, we talked about with Lucy the dancers who like pushed us over.
Stuff. So
oh my gosh.
That was like roughly 6 hours in, I think. And I was doing fine till then. I think all of us kind of were, and I was like, I got this. We're good. I'm chilling. But as soon as that happened, I like fell to the floor. I scraped my hands. I didn't have gloves on. And so I just continuously kept getting like more annoyed while they were like there, and like my hand hurt. And so at some point, Lucy started like actually offering this up, and I was like, okay, fine. Lucy might be crazy enough to give it to me because she thought we shared an idol. We might be able to share this necklace. Let's fucking do it and see what happens. And then when she didn't give it to me, I like tears in my eyes, like really pissed. I was so upset because it was bad. I think my anger just like was so overwhelming at that time that even when she said it, it was just like I didn't know like what to even do.
Yeah.
I was curious, like, what it feels like to walk in a circle for 6.5 hours.
Oh my gosh!
Right, how much does Taco Bell help with that? Working at Taco Bell. I think that's a question a lot of people had.
So when I said the Taco Bell thing was meant to be like I've been able to stand and walk around for like hours. That's what I did at Taco Bell.
Right.
So that was the point I was trying to make. I don't know if I got across, but
I love that line.
Yeah.
No, I genuinely thought that you would like never drop, which is why I took the deal essentially, because I didn't want it to just be me and you.
No, I kind of had the same idea. I think I was also convinced by like Lucy being like insane. But but I was definitely also just like, I need to make sure Sarah also doesn't win this. Because, I don't know, I think if Lucy drops, we would have gone until one of us literally could not anymore.
Like, we would have, like, fallen on the ground.
Yeah, because I was prepared. Because I knew if you won that, there was no chance I was winning the game.
I did not want you to win it. Because I knew you were, like, my biggest competitor, you know, at that point. But I thought it was funny because they put us in the same corner, and then we were like, I feel like arguing 90% of the time, and then like I would accidentally step on your shoe in the middle, and I'd be like, sorry, and you'd be like, it's okay, and we'd like go back to arguing.
I totally forgot that happened, but it definitely did, like multiple times. We would literally be like yelling at each other, and then she would like step on me, and we'd be like, oh, it's okay, sorry, that was an accident.
Now, we could play a game of Never Have I Ever right now, but I don't know what level you guys want to do.
Okay, also, I wanted to ask you, because you were very good at tiebreakers and, like, game knowledge.
Are you a little salty, Sarah?
No, I was just like, did you, like, what was your strategy? Like, did you have a notebook that you kept notes in? Like, did you just have a really good memory? Like, what was that?
I don't know. I think I never, like, kept track of anything.
What? That's insane.
No, I guess not, because I'm just trying to think, because at Final 5, the questions were about mostly memory, and they were just weird questions, like, the stuff I would not have even kept intact anyways. Like, I remember one of them was, how many cups did we stack with our feet or something like that.
Right.
And
yeah.
It was just weird stuff. And then for Final 4, I'm trying to think, because there's definitely been times for games I've played online where I've kept track of things, and I usually, like, try to go through things to remember them, but I don't remember off the top of my head doing that going into Final 4.
Okay.
I remember, like, going into it and just being really confused. I didn't even know that would be what the challenge was. Yeah, so I didn't have any intention for that, so.
Yeah.
I also didn't know that it was going to tie.
That's true. I did not. I had zero expectation that I would tie.
I actually had a little notebook that I kept tabs on, and it actually helped me with one of the questions, which was who was the first picked at the swap, which I knew was Mike because I had written that down. But yeah, I didn't think to write, like, who was the third bucket or whatever.
Yeah. I remember the bucket question. The bucket question, I think it showed in the episode, but I, like, had to turn and verify, like, in my own head what happened by, like, pointing at who went and all that. Because I just remembered it was easier for me because I think I went out first during that challenge, so I knew everyone.
Oh, you're right.
Left.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. I was too busy.
You're paying attention to my bucket, yeah.
Wow.
One of the questions should have been, who did Nick kiss at the or under the arch?
Yeah.
That would have been too easy. That was one of the most iconic moments.
One of the best moments of the game for me too. It was so funny.
Oh, your confessional afterwards is one of the best confessionals ever.
Oh, God.
So I'm convinced it's one of the best confessionals of the entire season. Like, where you said, like, yes, so I sent the little tweet for the Ian Daily article.
Kevin was so mad.
And you're like, you're like, he probably thinks, like, I'm so weird. And it's like, Kevin's like, so that Nick guy, I'm not really a fan of him because he's
It's so funny too because I didn't even go into that being like, oh, this is gonna be weird. I just assumed because I don't know. I guess the people I hung around with in ballroom are, like, kind of fluid with, like, kissing people. No one really cares.
Yeah.
Or, like, the people I hung around with starting with college. So, like, when I went into it and, like, offered it, I just didn't even connect the dots that, like, he might be uncomfortable as someone who's, like, a freshman who hasn't done any of this. But then I just decided to torment him anyways because I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
He's so
well, especially when you're, like, right next to Maggie and Jeremy, you know. Like.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Oh, actually, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but one of the things that I don't think was necessarily on film a ton or really shown as much was, like, how close you were with Maggie throughout, like, a lot of the game.
Yeah, so I'm kind of upset because when you left, Sam, that was probably the most important week in probably most of the game. Me and Maggie had a conversation outside, and only half of it got recorded because my laptop died, and the first half was essentially her being like, Nick, I love you, you're a great person, but the votes are on you, there's nothing that can happen, and yada, yada, yada. And then that was the entire first half of the conversation, and it was, like, her just kind of, like, speaking to me. And then the second half of the conversation was the part that didn't get recorded, and it was essentially me just being like, Maggie, like, look at, like, your game, look at what's going on, just think about, like, offer up other names, because realistically, Lucy could go now and I could go next week. It shouldn't really matter. Just, like, see what you can do, see if you can save me, please. I have, like, literally nothing else. And I think... And I think it kind of, like, stuck with her because me and her had been talking before merge, just very slightly, because we met up at a Necto randomly, which just somehow happened, and she like screamed my name and like took a small little video, like her drunken Maggie stuff. And so that's how we met, realistically. And then after that, when it was Bailey versus
Lucy,
yeah. She met up with me and wanted to meet up with me and Bailey at the same time for some
and asked
reason.
about the idol clue, right?
Yeah, she asked about the idol clue and kind of just went through like what I wanted, and then like when Bailey left, she was like, "Are you sure? Like, who would you rather want out?" And at that point, I had no idea, but because realistically, I didn't know she was like trying to get me to say who I was closer to vote them out or what. But I think our bond just kind of like started forming there because we realized like we're just kind of both slightly out there and trying to have like a good time with everything we were doing. I don't know. I think it just like kind of grew out of the fact that we were both just very loud people who just wanted to have fun. And somehow, because we started talking early and just continuously kept talking every week, I think by the time I needed her and she needed me, it was like right there for us. So
Right.
Yeah, I do really think that like that's one of the things that I did not realize at the time was how much of an impact your relationship with Maggie ended up having what ended up honestly like saving you at Final Eight and getting me voted off was like I think that's one of the things that I really I just didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
I remember you bringing it up at Tribal Council and like I was like, what are you talking about? But I really do think it's a thing where I think you probably, if I had not decided to make a move on Jack that week, you probably would have went home. But Maggie wanted to save you so much that as soon as I told her about that plan, she was like, "This is
found the end."
I think she was like, "This is the way. Yeah, that's the end. This is how I can save Nick." And I think you've done a really good job of like really, really getting Maggie on your side. And Maggie wanted to really protect you at all costs. Like I remember she basically like was insisting like, no. We can't vote off Nick this week. Jack needs to go this week.
I think Maggie could have done a better job of like campaigning for you in the jury chat, Nick.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I don't really remember because I wasn't in the chat for that long before the final, but I don't remember seeing much like no, that's not what I meant. I just don't remember seeing much like of Maggie like or anyone like saying things that like we didn't already know, and that would have been helpful information, you know.
Yeah, I think when it happened at Tribal or Final Tribal, I definitely like tried to explain it, and I think I did a really awful job of explaining it. I don't even know if it like made the episode. I can't remember how bad it was, but it was like I was trying to explain that essentially my vote wasn't needed to get Jack out ever. Like whether I was gone at Final 8 and you guys tried to make the move on Jack, you would have still needed the same 4 people. It would have still been Sam, Maggie, Lucy, and someone else. And so like whether or not I was there didn't really matter because what happens at 7 would have happened at 8. Like we would have had 4 votes, or we had 4 votes at 8, and so we would have still needed one more person. So it didn't really matter what they wanted to do. So I was trying to explain in the Final Tribal Council that like I was only there because people wanted me there, not because my vote mattered.
Gotcha.
But I just did I did a really, really bad job of explaining that, and I know I did because I remember most people being like, you didn't really do anything that week. And I was like, I didn't say I targeted Jack per se.
Right.
But I was just saying.
It's kind of hard to articulate. It's like weird.
It's a very like precise little thing.
Well, I think it's really dependent upon Maggie sharing her side of the story, where she says, "Oh, well, the reason that like I blew that up that week is because I wanted to save Nick." So
and
I feel like that was
the
missing piece of the story. To like,
she's not the type of person like us, like me, Sam, and Sarah, to be like in the jury chat, like typing all these paragraphs and stuff.
Exactly. Like I assume
she's just like, what the fuck, guys, vote Nick. Like, come on.
Makes sense.
In kind of the same vein, I've talked with you about this a bit, Nick, and it's been episodes, but I want to officially just go on the record and apologize for not meeting with you Final 7 or Final 6. It would have been so much better for both of us.
Oh, God. With the week when Jack was using his second idol, and Maggie went home. I was trying to like find ways to save Maggie because I wanted Maggie in the game, or just find ways to make my position better and just kind of like take some control. So like Sarah finally told me that like she thought Jack was playing the idol and was like finally telling me like information on the game, and I was like, okay, I can do something with this. So at some point, like Sarah like started texting me and like sent something to me about being like, oh look, Jack thinks you're totally voting him and totally thinks or is totally going to use his idol or something like that. And you like sent me a screenshot of that. Like I have a distinct screenshot of like.
Oh, I don't remember this.
I remember because there was a screenshot of like your conversation with Jack where Jack was like, haha, classic Nick.
Okay, it's coming back to me. Yes.
So when I got that, I was like, okay, look, I can talk to Jack right now, and he doesn't have to play his idol, but we can actually team up and fuck something up right now. Like, do something, make sure, like, even going forward, I have more votes and can control the game. And, like, I was considering if Maggie still went home at 7, I was like, well, I can take Jack to Final Four instead of Sarah, because whatever, I don't know. That's just kind of what I was thinking, and I was like, Jack would be like a better person to like keep with me, especially if I just saved his entire game.
Yeah, and essentially, like, you'd have something you can point to and like without dispute say this is my move. It isn't like, oh, there's like this like, you know, subtleties of me manipulating Maggie to save me at 8 and like get him to listen on that. It's like, no, I talked to Jack and he like got him to turn on Sarah. Like that's very much something that you could point to a Final Chapter console.
Yeah, exactly. And so like there was some point in the middle of that week after all that happened, I went to like a confessional and they like asked me what was going on, and I was like, okay, well, I have this really cool plan where I actually flip the entire game, get Jack to like realize not to use his idol and just fuck everyone else over. But I just gotta wait for Jack to respond to
no. God, like literally, I regret this every day.
Did you ever think, Nick, about just sending him a bunch of texts and like explaining what you would have said?
I guess I have after. I don't remember in the moment, but I definitely have after being like, I should have just sent him the screenshot of like Sarah showing me. Just to like get him to do something. But I don't know. I think the fact that he ignored me was like one really unexpected. I just assumed at some point we would talk because he he said we can meet up when he was done being busy or whatever, and then it just never happened. Like he
classic Jack.
Stopped.
I was at the market.
Sorry.
So he just kind of like didn't respond, and at that point I was just like, I was like low key offended. So I was like, fine, if you don't want to work with me, I guess I'll just go work with Sarah instead.
Right, that makes sense.
I don't know. I also just really didn't think he was going to use his idol at 7. Like I was definitely like on board being like, he is fooling literally everyone.
Literally everyone.
Even myself.
The other way around.
Yeah. Yeah, you just thought I was a better player than I was. So
Bree literally got sent home because she talked to me. So
it makes and I think that actually was mentioned as part of it. Like she was like, "Hey, like you remember like why we like turned on Bree?" It's like I don't like what, and Sarah like pointing to like, "Hey, what if Mike does that again?" And like if you like if he finds out you're talking to Nick, he's not gonna like it. Yeah, we talked about this earlier, but just like
that's so Godfather-esque. Like,
yeah, how good Sarah was like at that. I will be mad, just like you don't want to piss off Mike. Like she's like push. It was really good. I was really good. It was a combination of like Sarah being like a 10 out of 10 at this point, and I'm being at like a 0 out of 10. You know. So.
I mean, I give Sarah so much credit for that.
Yeah.
I didn't actually see it coming, and I didn't really understand even why you did it in the moment. I was just kind of like, oh, this happened. All right.
It's kind of funny. Like I was like, oh, you know, talking to Nick makes you a marked person. I'm like, well, think about it, like Bree, Abby, and then all of a sudden, like me,
and then you,
Maggie. It's like people that started aligning with Nick, like it's like they got voted off. But, like you were able to like get the target off yourself every time. But like I remember even this episode, you were like, I'm so glad Maggie got in that fight with Jack and she got the target.
I remember that so well because as soon as you left, I was like, I thought maybe they were still voting me when you left. And so when the idol got played, I got nervous and I was like, oh, it might be me. And then when it was you, I was like, oh shit, good. we're good. And then, so I was happy. Like, even with you leaving, I was annoyed, but I was happy because it wasn't me. And so then everyone else started going off, and I was like, I'll just stay happy. Let me stay out of it.
I mean, you had me in your sights as like someone you wanted to get out of the game literally like 1 week before. So it's like, it was overall a win. Like, at the beginning of the week is going to be you. At the end of the week, like, one of these bigwigs is like gone. So
and another one burned an idol, So
yeah. And then obviously they have Maggie fighting with people, and like, so the game really was different at that point. So yeah. No, I don't really think you got a bad rap though. Like, I do want to address, like, I feel like people were calling you like sketchy when you weren't necessarily even really sketchy. I do think that we talked about that as being like legitimate strategy on our part because we were more threatened by you than we were by Mike and Mallory. As being like, Nick is somebody that we were like, shoot, this guy like is trying to play both sides just like we are. I think Jack and Sarah had like a video where they're saying like, we're the ones that can play both sides.
I'm not allowed to do that. Come on.
I don't know. It's wild because I definitely went into that, and I feel like the only time early on in the game that I was really, really dishonest is when I was like trying to find a way out of the normies. And even then, like, I wasn't even, I was dishonest to you three because I was trying to do other things. But even then, I was still like walking Mallory and Mike through literally everything I was doing. I was just kind of being like, listen, I don't think this is good for us. Like, how do we get out of this? And they were just like, it's no big deal. And I was like, but it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. So it was always wild to me that everyone was like, Nick's so sketch, because I was like, I'm literally telling everyone exactly like what's going on. I've told everyone who got voted out. It happened like after I just had a conversation being like, yeah, this and this and this happened. Please open your eyes and listen to me. So I don't know. It was weird.
Have we ever addressed why it was called the Normie Alliance?
I don't know.
So we called it the Normie because we were trying to we were saying how like everyone else was crazy when in reality like we were the crazy ones.
I'm 99%. I'm pretty sure I'm the one who came up with it too, because I think you guys were just like, everyone else is crazy, and I was like, or like, I don't even know. I just remember calling it the normies and being like, that's like low-key funny, but there's no real reason for this.
I just love how we were trying to act like we were normal, and we were like completely not.
I guess like Mike and Mallory like seem pretty normal, and like I mean, I don't know. I guess like,
I mean, if you compare us to Maggie, I think that's where it came from.
That's probably where it came.
Yeah. just Maggie. Any lines without Maggie, like, now we're the normal line.
That was like the most failed alliance of all time.
Yeah. We had one conversation.
It was just like a really awkward conversation.
It was so weird.
It was like a round table in like Mason Hall.
Yeah. I think that Nick, me and you had a conversation right before the Normie Alliance.
Yeah. I remember that also being really awkward because we were like, we're about to go in a meeting where we already have an alliance, but like, this is my first time meeting you. So and it happened in between something, because I think
the challenge or something.
So it was really like late at night. So me and Sam just both like unintentionally snuck off in the same exact place. And then started having this really weird conversation.
Oh, yeah,
that's right.
Because we were like in the group chat, we were like, we have to all disperse.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back
together.
Oh, yeah. Classic strategy.
That must have been after. Was that after the food eating challenge?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But
good times.
Yeah. Okay. We have to address the elephant in the room, though.
Yes.
Which is final tribal and us three not voting. So let's get in. What was like your strategy going into that tribal? Like, what were your thoughts? Were you like, I'm definitely gonna win? Like, what was going on?
I think going into it, I felt pretty confident. I figured everyone just kind of saw Mallory and Lucy as ghosts, whereas I got targeted many times, so I didn't feel like people saw me the same way, and so I just assumed that, like, going into it, a lot of people would be voting my way, or would be thinking about it, and I think I kind of just wanted to go into there and just feel like strong about what I did or make myself sound like I had control over my situation. Even if it wasn't like claiming every move, it was at least like claiming the idea like I understood what was happening. And so I kind of went in there being like, I got to put on a little bit of bravado just to make sure like Mallory's voting correctly every time doesn't overshadow me.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what I went in thinking. And yeah, I don't know if it came off the right way.
I think for me, I was just so shocked about Mallory not falling for the trick.
Mm-hmm.
I was like leaning a little bit more towards her. This is another thing I wanted to add. Like, what did Sam and Jack, what did you guys want to see from Nick?
I guess I just wanted to see the whole idea of just like owning the game, and like even if it might not have been actually true, it seemed like we thought that you kind of like were claiming things that like you didn't do. Like I feel like I just really wanted you to like come out and be like, I was underdog. Like there's a lot of stuff going on that like was against me, but like I was able to like fight through it all. And I think that like when personally for me, like if you like saying that like the final 8 thing and stuff like that, even if that was almost like kind of true, like you didn't really explain it well enough for me to be like, that is the lineup of how I perceived it, you know?
I definitely think for me it was like I honestly just really hadn't seen or understood a lot of what your game was. I think I didn't really know much of what you or Mallory's games were because I was much closer to Lucy out of the 3 of you, and I just like kind of knew I wasn't going to vote for Lucy probably. So I think I kind of went in there pretty undecided because I was like, I don't really know what either of their games really are. I'd really seen a lot of the game through my own perspective, and I think that like I was pretty blinded by that, honestly, kind of being like, wow, I thought that I was controlling most of the things, or when I wasn't, it was Sarah. So then I was like, oh, if me and Sarah were controlling things, then what have Nick or Mallory even done? You know, like I think I really was kind of stuck up in my own ego.
I definitely, and then, like, I definitely was my own ego too.
Yeah, so I feel like at the final tribal, what I wanted to do is like I wanted to be able to see, okay. Like I think I also like did recognize that, and I was like, I want to like be as open-minded as possible, and just like completely just like hear out their own their perceptions of their games, and then like whatever one is more impressive to me, I'll like vote for that. And I think that like I honestly going in the final tribal, I guess like there's just a disconnect between like your game and like you being able to explain it in a way that like I really made sense. Like right, you know, I'd heard things you said about the final 8. I didn't really understand like, oh wow, like you really had this relationship with Maggie that really paid dividends. You had this relationship with Mallory where she would not vote for you. You're the one that really kind of like pivoted pilot 5 move. I think at the time, to me, I just didn't really understand that as you explained it. And then Mallory really like came in with like a very, very like clear cut, like this is my strategy, this is what I did, I voted correctly every time, I like read through Sarah's move, blah blah blah. So I think that it was like maybe you also didn't really realize that like it was so close that it was going to come down to who's better at like explaining their game in the way that makes sense to the jury. I really think that's what it came down to.
Yeah, I think going into it, I definitely took for granted my perspective versus other people's perspective, because my perspective was like I done things, I clearly had relationships that kept me safe. I wasn't getting voted out, even though I was still a target, and so I just also, and my perspective was that like Lucy didn't really do much without someone else, and Mallory really didn't do much without meeting someone else. And so from my eyes, I just like thought everyone kind of thought the same way as me.
Yeah.
And so I think I definitely like going into it, I didn't think I had to like push as hard as I did like needed to. And so I didn't go through like and eloquently like decide beforehand how I was going to say these things, because I was just kind of like, well, I had the idol and Lucy's vote at final 5. That should be pretty obvious. I could probably easily control that. I had connections that saved me, and they clearly didn't need my vote from, like, they could have done the Jack move at 7, so like clearly there's something there, but I don't, like, going into it, I just thought I'd be able to like say something like that and have it come across and like you guys register what I was saying, but I don't think I ever realized that like you guys didn't necessarily see my game, and I totally get why you didn't see my game, because for most of the time me and Sam didn't talk Jack ignored me for a couple of votes.
Yeah.
Sarah and I didn't start working together till like really final 6, final 5-ish, and even then we were like working together to get our agendas across, but not together. So like I didn't for me it didn't like there was definitely a disconnect between like what I did and realizing that other people didn't see it.
Right. I guess like for me, what I saw the most was like your ability to really perform in challenges and like beat me in tiebreakers. Like that was just like the very clear thing that you did like better than me that nobody can argue about. Which is why I really wanted you to say that for like when Jack asked.
Oh, that would have been a good one. Yeah.
So I was like really hoping you would say that, and then I forgot what you actually said. Oh, I think you said
it was that you were able to do a better job at dispersing the target than Sarah.
Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, I guess that was like one thing I was really hoping you would talk about, because I guess for me that was like the one very glaring thing that you did better than me, and like it's just like it was the part of the game that I saw the most.
Yeah,
like, your ability to really like perform under pressure, I guess.
Yeah.
You were a very clutch player. I think that Nick
you're very
was
clutch.
the most clutch person this season too, except for I guess the final tribal. But
shit happened.
No, something I do want to say though is like through this podcast we've like debated many things back and forth and talked about like and talked about our decisions for voting Mallory and all that. But I want to say too that like I hope you really hear that like you had a very, very strong game. You accomplished something that none of us could accomplish, and you were able to escape a lot of votes. And a lot of that, I know I said at the final tribal that I saw a lot of it as luck, but I really think that there was an element of luck, but there was a lot of skill that went into what you did. More skill than I think I had. So I really hope that that at the time I didn't really see your full game, and after having like watched it and getting to know you over the last couple of years, I'm like, man, like Nick is a very strong player, and there's an element of luck to everybody's game. But I think honestly, if anything, I would argue that the thing that struck you the most was bad luck rather than good luck. That I think that the amount of skill you had is something that will generally get somebody a lot of power in the game, and I think you didn't have a lot of power, just like mostly due to bad luck rather than like you getting to the end due to good luck.
Well, I also love how passionate you are about the game. It's very passionate, yeah.
Well, I appreciate it because I mean, after that final tribal, I was mad.
It was so awkward after.
Yeah.
Wait, we never talked about like what happened after.
I don't know. When it first happened, I was really like mad, and my initial reaction was just kind of like, I am upset, like let me be. And one of the first people who came up to me was Lucy, and that was just a bad choice because in my head, she went up to me being like, I can explain this, like let me explain it to you, and I was just like, Lucy, I really just don't want to hear this right now, which is like very sore loser of me, but like I was just very upset because it was something I was very passionate about. And then I had a lot of the producers afterwards come up being like, oh, we didn't expect that. We thought you would win. Like, sorry about it. And so like that ended up like smoothing things over in some sort of way. I personally understand. I've played enough games online and was even like just so adamant about like certain people winning regular Survivor that I understand why I lost and understand that I didn't play the best because I wasn't able to explain how I played. And so like being able to say that and being able to like really know that I lost with being able to explain my game and being able to get jury management and even like just in general, I don't even think I played that well in season 2. I was able to scrape by and like do a lot of things, being able to like save myself, but like Mallory voted correctly every time. So it's a very different game, and I understand that like some people just really value social game and what Mallory was able to do compared to what I was able to do, and they're just two very different ends of the spectrum. So I personally harbor no resentment, really. So I understand it. Still wish I would have won, but
so.
You would have been a very, very deserving winner if you had won.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I will say while you said, Sarah, that you were probably more leaning towards Mallory than the other two, I actually definitely thought you were more towards leaning with me.
Oh.
Because I remember like multiple times throughout this, or the one time throughout the season where you asked like who I thought were the biggest threats were. You got I felt like you got really, really offended when I said you were a Mallory level threat.
Right. Oh, okay.
Because I remember like you getting upset and being like, why am I the same level as her? Like what? And then so I was like, oh, she doesn't really value Mallory's game that much. I think everyone kind of sees her as like she's voting correctly, but voting with people and just kind of like going with votes instead of starting them. And then at Final Four, I think both of us kind of knew going into it that we were like each other's like biggest contender. And so I just expected coming into it that like I was able to vote off the same people you did and get the final 3 that you wanted.
Right.
And so I just assumed that like you'd be like, okay, well, he might not have been the one leading all the votes or doing everything, but he was able to get and sit next to the 2 people who I thought I could beat. So like he should beat them as well. So when I went into it, I definitely thought you were someone who was going to vote for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think if Mallory hadn't pulled her little move where she like pretended like she never fell for my trick, I would have been leaning more towards you, Nick.
Yeah.
All the way up until that point. But even then, like, you beat me in the tiebreaker, so...
Yeah,
I think it was, like,
sense.
Final Tribal. I think it was mostly Final Tribal. But, like, coming in, the reason why I was leaning was because of... That was so fresh in my mind.
Yeah.
I just, like, couldn't get over it. Because, like, to me, that was, like, the reason why I lost.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was, like... I didn't know it was because you had cultivated that bond so much.
Which is something I definitely didn't. I just assumed people realized me and Mallory were close for some reason. Because she definitely told like Mike at some point she wasn't ever going to vote me and stuff like that. And so when she like said she like didn't fall for it or whatever, and I don't think she ever brought it up at Final Tribal. I can't remember, but it didn't register to me that that was even something I had to like argue against. I was just like, oh well, she obviously voted to keep me because she was like really close with me. She didn't fall for the trick, but it was still like she really wanted me in the game and stuff like that. So that like for me didn't even cross my mind until after when I like the producers told me that's what you said at like the voting confessional. I was like, oh well, okay.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm glad that you have like closure and like clarity on all of this.
Yeah.
Just because I know, like, right after, it's probably, like, you just have no idea what happened, like, what went wrong, so...
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad we've gotten clarity on this.
Yes. I'm actually very glad because even after the season, I don't know if, like, I wasn't close to you, Sam, or Jack, or anyone like that, and I feel like after the season, all of us have gotten really close. Like, if we were to play another season now, Sarah, I think me and you would... Or at least I would try to be close to you because I feel very connected and like really enjoy your guys' energy. I just didn't get that during the game.
I think I would definitely want to work with you, Nick, even just because I feel like a debt to you for not talking with you at Final 7-6. So I just feel like I need to repay that debt.
No, definitely. I feel that. Like, if we all play together again, I would definitely want to work with you, Nick.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming on. I feel like we got some good insight from your point of view. And, yeah, anything else that we missed that you wanted to address? Or
let me see. I guess the one other thing that I thought about was there was a confessional where I was like, oh, if you take out Mallory's vote for every tribal, it doesn't really matter. And, like, I don't know. I think it came off wrong because it happened exactly like right after Final Four. But it was in my eyes when I said it, I was like thinking more of literally everything except for Final Four. Because I was like, oh well, technically you could take out one vote from the majority every single time, which is what Mallory was in, and nothing would have changed. And so I don't really think that needs that much clarification, but I just remember saying it and being like, oh, that looked really, really bad. And there was a reason. Like, I considered that, like, bringing that up at Final Tribal, but then I, like, really went over it. I was like, we're not doing that. And that's why I never got there, but I did say it in a confessional, so that's why I
Yeah, that's funny. That Final Four trouble just really shook things up.
It really did.
I have to say, just like even just completely removing like all of our experience like from it, just like that finale episode is just so good. Like so much great stuff happened. Such great TV.
Like every part of it was in some way exciting.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna go get some Taco Bell now.
All right.
Hope you guys have a good night. Thanks for being a guest, Nick. You were amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Hope you have a good winter break.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you in Chicago.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.